question. There's so many things to talk about. I think you probably have to start with...
Morning.
Prime Minister's...
Morning.
Morning.
Yes.
Yes, let's start with a good morning.
Cheery more, good morning.
Good morning, if you insist.
I was just getting on with it.
Do you feel ignored?
PMQs.
I mean, like, people are speaking over you. Is that how you feel?
He's already been labelled a dinosaur this morning.
Really?
And unflatteringly compared to Dolly Parton. So I have to say, Ed's feeling a little bit sensitive.
Well, actually,
Do you know, there's only one
Dolly
thing
Parton is a god.
Yes.
So I saw her in concert, and it's the best concert I've ever been to in my life.
She has put her hand on my inner thigh.
Oh.
Is she?
I thought it was a knee 20 minutes ago.
I know, but I was holding back. It was early.
By talking about that, you are sounding like the Edosaurus.
Maybe
My
that's...
dinosaur.
Gentleman doesn't tell.
There we are.
How long did she leave her hand there?
It feels slightly uncomfortable, this conversation. So can we move it on to
He's
Prime
not
Minister's
answering.
question?
He's got children. Three.
Not with her.
Not
with her.
I thought that was only a rumour.
OK, so Prime Minister's
We're being
questions
serious.
today. Nadhim Zahawi,
Right.
not by any means off the hook. Shall we just remind ourselves what the Prime Minister said about the matter before he launched an inquiry to clear up any questions that might still need to be asked? This is what he said last week at PMQs.
Will the Prime Minister demand accountability from his cabinet members about their tax affairs?
Well, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend has already addressed this matter in full, and that's nothing more that I can add.
Right, I thought he'd addressed it in full, Andrew. So does that mean that the Prime Minister doesn't believe what he was told by Mr Zahawi, the chairman of his party?
The point, it's what he wasn't told by Nadhim Zahawi, because Nadhim Zahawi's had an ongoing issue over his tax affairs, and he didn't tell the Prime Minister last week that he had to pay a penalty, reputedly up to £1 million, which is effectively a fine which people get if you don't pay your tax on time. That's a pretty germane thing to have to tell your Prime Minister, who is First Lord of the Treasury. And, of course, all this happened when Nadhim Zahawi was very briefly Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Of course.
But Andrew, the Treasury would have known all these details.
I can't understand why Number 10...
The Cabinet Office would have known all these details. Are you really saying that the Treasury and the Cabinet Office, as well as Nadhim Zahawi, all forgot to tell the Prime Minister when he was appointing him in a reshuffle? That is beyond belief.
What I think is more concerning is that he was made Chancellor of the Exchequer by Boris Johnson, albeit very briefly. It was when the government was falling apart with Boris because everybody was resigning. But Boris made him Chancellor of the Exchequer when this was really an issue. And presumably, a week or so after he became Chancellor, he wrote a cheque for nearly £5 million for this tax bill. How did he ever become Prime Minister Chancellor then? And how did he... Why did the Treasury not tell Number 10? I think they didn't tell him.
Nadhim Zahawi's tax affairs and finances, personal finances, became an issue in the Tory leadership election back in
Which
summer,
one?
When it was the one.
Which
It was the one when Rishi Sunak finished second. Zahawi was 7 out of 8, but it came up there, and he was asked about it. It was in the papers.
He was.
It was on TV, so you could not know. When last week he brushed it away, Sunak, that way, and I was in the comments. I thought, is that a hostage to fortune? I didn't quite know what was going to come out, but I thought, you're taking a chance there. That will be quoted back at it today, along with him now saying there are serious questions to answer. Because if you're Starmer, you're Labour, you don't really just make it about Zahawi. You make it about a Prime Minister who is weak, incompetent, naive, just not on top of it. That's what you do.
Yeah,
the Tories are going to have a President Rishi Sunak strategy, think he's better than the Tory party. But Labour, Starmer...
But I still don't believe that the Prime Minister, when he told the Commons last week that Zahawi had dealt with it, I do not believe that he was aware that he'd paid this penalty. I can't believe it.
How wasn't he, though? That is the question.
Because somebody didn't ask the right question.
That means that he didn't ask the right question.
Or his people in Number 10 didn't ask the right question.
an inquiry to ask the right question.
But at least
it doesn't make him look very
But he's got an ethics
powerful.
advisor, which, of course, Boris didn't bother with because he lost his 2 ethics advisors. So he's got an ethics advisor.
He resigned because he didn't have any ethics.
Who is the ethics advisor? I can't remember his name.
He's an older Tony, an establishment banker.
He'll do a proper inquiry, and we'll know in a couple of weeks' time. And here's my prediction: when the inquiry's completed, Nadhim Zahawi will be goodbye.
What does he do today? Just one more question on PMQs.
Yeah.
He'll
say there's an inquiry.
He's not. No. But a bigger picture.
Right.
We've seen in the past points where Tony Blair, David Cameron under big pressure, and they have a good PMQs because they fight back and they change the narrative. What does Sunak do today? Does he go to Ukraine and be a statesman? Does he go on the attack with Labour? That's not really been working on these strikes. Does he make an announcement? The one thing he can't afford to do is to stand there again and look like he's not really on top of the detail of his government and his ministers.
Well, I suppose he could talk about Keir Starmer saying how important it is that there's a proper dignified debate about trans issues and actually has done nothing to condemn the abuse that his own Labour MP
so go on the attack.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
What he'll do, it's like a magician's trick, it's distraction. Don't look here where I'm up to something, look over there.
The way that Labour MP was treated by her own backbenchers was disgraceful.
Whataboutery. And all the Tory MPs will cheer. He always gets his biggest cheers if he attacks trade unions, because being anti-trade unions is in the Tory DNA, so they all get behind him. But the fact is, if you are Starmer, you will go on Zahawi, but you will also probably do all the failings in the probation and criminal justice system, all these women being killed.
If it was me, what I would do is I would do, at the very beginning, a big announcement on police reform or probation reform before Starmer gets up and actually try and change the narrative onto something positive and strong, because we know from our survey today that trust is going down in the police. He needs to do something big on
you can say big and strong. Which party has been in power for 13 years? Which party has this happened under? And it happened with Labour at times. It was like, God, this is awful. Yeah, but who's been in control? Who's been running this? You have. You haven't sorted it. Why should people trust you to do it now?